Welcome, welcome, welcome. Welcome to You've Championed Yourself. Who are you? I'm Chris Ferguson, your host. It has always been a dream of mine to showcase the ordinary people in the world, those who have taken their dreams, their ideas, and turned it into their reality. As they reach beyond their personal struggles, their pains, their traumas, where so many people give up and lose hope, there are those few who walk through their obstacles and challenges, not knowing where it's going to take them to. They trust themselves enough not to give up. Doing the follow through in personal life, their career, and in relationships. This is what I call a personal champion. Today, I have Aideen Riada, and she's an amazing individual. She sings, she does music. She has we're going to have an awesome conversation. Let's bring her in here. Hey, Dean, how are you, sweetheart?
Thank you so much for having me, Chris. You're awesome. I love that intro. Because I have an audio that I'm listening to lately. It's like a hypnosis audio. And in it, she says, "You're a winner." So when you said, "You're a champion, Aideen," I was like, yeah, I've been sticking that in my head for the last month and a half.
I love that. Well, see, being in law enforcement and seeing all the bad things people do to people.
Yeah.
It has been my dream to showcase, because there's more of this majority of people that do amazing things every day and they don't celebrate it, and nobody hears about them. Nobody knows their stories. Nobody knows what they've been through. And sometimes getting out of bed is the hardest thing in the morning to do, but they do it anyway.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so that's why I created this when I retired last year in May. I just started posting in the podcast in July. So I'm a newbie at it, but it comes from the heart. So I just love it.
That's wonderful. And my podcast started over the summer as well. So yay.
Let's talk about your mission.
Well, my mission is to help people understand that their voices have value.
I love that.
Yeah. Yeah. We each have a part to play in our lives, and the things that you have a little nudge inside, a little bit of a hope for, or like for me, I would watch Sister Act, for instance, and I would start crying because I'd be like, I was so moved by people singing. It was like a little, it was like my heart was like expanding and contracting, because I would feel this connection to the person singing, and I'd feel at the same time, oh, I can't do that. So there was this conflict within me for so long. When I was 28, someone even asked me, "Aideen, what's your dream?" And I said, "Well, I want to be a singer, but I can't do that."
Ooh.
But I heard it this time. I heard it.
Good.
So that's at age 28 was a turning point, because I started to do it anyway, even though the thing in my head was telling me, you can't really do that, Aideen. So it took me a long time to actually feel like I got rid of that completely in my head. At least I took the steps regardless.
I love the courage that it took for you to step beyond that thought process, that inner chatter.
Yeah.
Which is amazing. But how difficult was it? Were there days you just listened to the chatter and didn't take action?
But I think you're kind of going through your life, and everything is like black and white in your life, and you just kind of accept that that's how life is. You kind of are used to being disappointed and not very fulfilled, and it's just a habit. So I would try sometimes, like I would like start a singing class, or I was in a band. After I realized that was in my head, I actually went back to college and I studied jazz vocal performance for 2 years.
Ooh, I see. I love jazz. I'm a big Motown, big jazz. Yeah, I love that style.
So it's wonderful, and it's a great style to learn, to build kind of your knowledge of music, which is the main reason I ended up in that, was because the other options were all classical training.
Yeah.
So I had a jazz quartet, and while I was in college, we did gigs around, and something happened while at the end of my time in college, I met my now husband, 10 years, more than 10 years ago, in 2008, we met and we broke up. And we didn't get back together until 10 years later. So what happened was the disappointment of that. I couldn't get people to my gigs. I was like frustrated. I didn't sing for 3 years after I left college. So even though I knew that that voice in my head was holding me back, I just didn't have enough energy within me to continually do it. And I didn't get that full energy until I started connecting deeper with myself through meditation. And with my support network, through the meditation I was doing, I started to feel very grounded in myself. I started to be a lot more consistent in taking small steps. And I took the pressure off the bigger goal, which was to sing at the Olympics, the opening ceremony Olympics. But I took pressure off that goal entirely. And I decided that rather than having a right direction or a right goal, I would just take right action. And that right action from my heart led me to setting up my business, firstly, teaching singing, which brought so much fulfillment around music. And from that, I started to get recognition. My dad was so happy with the recognitions I was getting that when my now husband, contacted me 10 years after we had met, my dad offered to pay for my ticket to LA to go and meet Mike again for the first time. So I have to say this because it's a domino effect. When you start taking steps towards what your heart's desire is and what you love, other things happen in your life. You find love, you find contentment, you find fulfillment. And I've been just amazed by how my story has changed. But even though the impetus and the gift was always there within me, it wasn't until I became grounded in myself that I was able to do things in a consistent way that allowed for that to build properly. Every other time it was like, I'd do it for a while and I'd stop again.
You talked about the consistency, but was that because you finally quieted the mind to be able to be quiet enough to hear it?
Yes. I mean, and I also felt I changed my mind about something. I said to my meditation teacher, do I need to deserve things to go well for me? And she said, no, but you reap what you sow. So that actually made sense, because taking one right action at a time is a bit like sowing a seed. So even if that's research to the qualification you think you might want, or, calling a friend who you think might know where the venue for your first workshop would be. So I started to sow seeds, and I didn't expect all of them to sprout, but I knew that if I wanted to succeed, that was my big overriding focus.
Well, it is all about planting seeds. There's so many people that get caught up, that I've experienced, in done for me or done for you, and and have these expectations. And I think about all of this, when you let go of the expectations, the universe says, here, my love, let's do this.
Yeah.
Here, my love, let's do that. And that's where you finally did have all the answers within you. You just now trusted yourself. So how did you learn to trust yourself more?
Oh my God, it took me so long. And I went to India, and I said to the guy running the thing, he's like, you could go in and ask him for something, right? I said, I just want to forgive myself.
Ah, I love that.
Because I spent so much time trying and failing. I had moved to London. I never did any singing in London. I thought that London was it for me. I was going to London to become a singer. I had to forgive myself. And I think I'm still doing forgiveness work. I think that a lot of the reasons that we get held back is because we have little resentments towards ourselves and others. So we have to be at peace with ourselves. In meditation, we talk about being grounded. And the key thing for being grounded is to accept your past. Accept where you've been. Doesn't mean you have to say it was all wonderful.
Right.
You have to accept that that's fully and completely yours. And as shitty as some of it may have been, you have come through that to be the person you are today.
But you might also want to think about it this way. when you don't allow your past to define you of who you are, all of a sudden you get clarity. All of a sudden you understand that, you know, there was stuff that happened beyond my control, and I'm feeling ashamed, and I'm taking the blame, and I'm taking the guilt for it. And that's what's heavy, getting heavy on my heart. Those are the attachments that I'm carrying around. And it feels like I'm carrying a 10-ton brick on me. And every time I take 3 steps forward, I get pulled 10 steps back.
Yeah.
But when you allow yourself to understand, there were certain things that were beyond your control.
Yeah.
There were certain things you couldn't change, and that all the past you can't change. But what can you do today?
Yeah. Every day is a new beginning. Every day is a new start. And you don't have to be the person that you used to be anymore. And I think meditation does teach that. It kind of clears your head and makes you start to identify with that peace as being the real you, rather than the identity and all the things that you think you are. Right. But your inner self is just a peaceful energy, just a peaceful kind of quiet place within you.
It is. I ask this question of all of my guests. If you could take a deep breath in, hold it, and ask your inner child, your 5-year-old inner child, what they would say about you now, what would that be?
Instinctively, the first thing was, I'm proud of you. There was a part of me that really struggled to take these steps, to be in doing what I love. Many years, decades, I would say. So it's nice to feel connected to the true, authentic me. And I think that's what that 5-year-old understands about this person I am now, that I am just being myself, just being authentic and truthful about what I love, what I'm passionate about, and what my gifts are and what I have to offer.
I agree. And she's also saying, thank you for not giving up.
Thank you. I'll take that.
Because the fact is that at one time, I think you were just reaching and reaching with no clarity. And that's how our passion gets distorted or stays unfocused, because our subconscious is like, oh, you can't do that. You can't do this. You can't do that. And we listen.
Yeah.
And when you stop listening, all of a sudden, everything becomes possible. In fact, if you think about impossible and pull off the I am, the I and the am, it's I'm possible.
Yeah.
And if you keep telling yourself that every day, you have the ability to accomplish all your goals and your dreams. And I love the fact that you're taking the steps and you're doing what we call in the shamanic world, the shadow work.
Yeah.
And going back into that area of your life where it was, kind of shitty, where it wasn't fair. And when you see life as it should be fair, that's entitlement. And I love that you didn't have that. Because that's where the most progress happens, is when you acknowledge your accountability and your responsibility of your life and your decisions. Yeah.
One of my mottos is never take too much blame for anything and never take too much credit for anything.
So are you originally from Ireland?
Yes, I'm Irish, born and bred, but my mother is from Michigan. So I've got the US connection. And when I met my husband in Ireland, he was an American musician touring Ireland. That was where that brought me back then to Michigan here, because his mother lives here in Michigan. So there's a couple of connections on both ways.
Well, my husband's the Irish side of this one, of this relationship as far as
Ferguson.
So yeah, his dad was Scot-Irish. It was actually at a time when they talked. They don't do much of that now, but they did in the past. So it was, it's interesting, but I love the accent. But talk about your background in psychology. How do you apply that to your clients?
Oh my goodness. Well, I think I was interested in psychology from childhood. My mother had childcraft books, and of course I read all of them and the one for parents. And then I found her book on Carl Jung, or my mother had very interesting books. So I started my interest in psychology as a teenager, and then I studied it in university. And I think if I had had my way, I would have become an actor. I had applied for acting college. So I didn't get to do that because my dad didn't think that college was suitable. And he said, no, 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 go to university. So I studied psychological studies and languages. I just wanted to know how people tick and how I tick and why. So I think that grounding in the basic theories of psychology has been useful, but the most useful stuff that I've gotten has been through lots of other teachings, more practical teachings, like how to use it yourself. I think that you don't go to do a psychology course for 3 years just to figure out how to use your own mind. That's not what it does.
Are you saying it's not necessary? Is that what you're saying?
Not essential, but unless you want to work in that area.
Well, it's all about people. You're a people person. And one of the things I'm picking up that I think you learned was stop being a people pleaser. And that was difficult in your life, learning your no, learning to be able to say, okay, thank you, but I have other plans.
You know, I can't say that was really it for me. I was very stubborn. I didn't try to please people. In fact, I would deliberately reject any positive or any advice that I got. I wanted to do it all on my own. I lost trust in my parents during my childhood because they had a lot of issues at the time. What I was doing when it comes to people is I was trying to fit in. And we all do that, you know, we all judge what should I do and how it fits in with other people. Yeah.
Never did. Didn't give two hoots about people. Never cared about any. It wasn't just because of my childhood. I never wanted to fit in because I was such an angry child.
Yeah.
And it was because of being abandoned at 8 and put in an orphanage and separated from my family. So you get a different perspective.
Yeah.
But I think wanting to fit in is actually being a people pleaser because you do want to feel accepted and wanted, just like with gangs, just like with everything else. We want to be one of those in the know kind of people. And
I wanted people to love me, but my main thing was I wanted attention. You know, I really,
it's okay. You know, there's no need. All of us, we get attention one way or another, good or bad. We get, and that understanding explains how we do it. Or you could just be this black sheep of the family, this radical, and just, you know, I just didn't care. And that was one of my biggest lessons, was absolutely being able to be emotional.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I get it. You sang at the Music Center in Dublin in New Park?
So that was where I studied my jazz school. So I went back in my 30s. So I took a leap back to student life, and I studied jazz music for 2 years there.
Let's talk about left brain, right brain integration through music, because when you're done, I want to tell you what I do with the brain and the heart.
Beautiful. Well, I'm really interested in this because I think a lot of people don't realize the full value of getting involved in music. But we think that it's just for fun or something, or like we enjoy doing a song or something like that. But the research shows that people that play music or sing, their brain works differently and they problem solve differently. So there's also a lot of research to show that it will help bullying and things like that. It creates a teamwork environment. So I like to think that by working with someone in a fun way with your music or with your singing, that it actually is a way to develop yourself as a person. And it does help you to move into leadership skills, because you're putting yourself forward to sing in front of others. So that develops confidence in yourself. So the right brain thinking is all creativity. You know, it relates to, your joy and, kind of a little erratic sometimes, lots of kind of outside the box thinking. And then the left brain is for your logical side. And what a lot of adults have happen is they become more linear in their thinking. They think that if I do this, this, and this, and those steps in that order, that will be the result. Because a lot of academics and, you know, our education is geared towards that. And so we become too linear. We don't leave enough space. We're not creative enough. And we're also can get stuck in critical thinking. So if I asked you to learn to play an instrument you'd never played before, a lot of adults will go, oh no, or they'd try for 3 weeks and they wouldn't make as much progress as they would like. So their critical mind would tell them it's not worth it. But the process of doing it, to me, is part of that reason to continue and to have fun with it. And so one of my biggest steps with my clients and my students is self-acceptance. Because if you can release that critical part and accept, this is just where I'm at, I'm just going to have fun, that opens up that playful side, that the right brain side. And play, we say play music. We say that you go to play music. It's like going into playground to play music. So I like to bring that word play and joy into how you do the singing, how you pursue what you want to do with your life, so that the process is good and fun and enjoyable. And you can achieve a lot more if you celebrate the steps rather than just the goal.
And not judge yourself. Because when you brought up play, the first thing is non-judgment. Because how many people go, I can't sing a note, I sing out of tune, they're self-critical. And I was like, wow, that's just saying judgment. And so how voice helps us access our soul message. Let's talk about that.
I believe that each of us have like a value system and something that we care about that we would talk about for hours. Like for some people, it could be vintage cars or something, okay? And they see so much value in tinkering and in creating something beautiful that moves fast, you know? So whatever your values are and your experiences are, they create a very unique offering. Do you know what I mean? That you are completely unique and special in what you have to say and in the experiences you've had that are bringing you to the point of being able to talk about it. So for me, that's your soul's message, something that you're passionate about, that you could talk about for hours. And a lot of people don't know the core of that within them. So one girl came to me. She is a coach and she sang a song for me. And I said, from this song and your connection to this song, I feel like one of your core soul messages is that no matter how hopeless things are, I will want to help you pull it through. And there is hope for you. When together we can be hopeful again. And it was just so powerful to kind of, when someone sings something and they bring a song to me that is aligned with them, that can really show me what that message is. And by understanding that, I think that can inform then how you communicate what you do for work even. You know, it's like a little spin on the thing that you do, but from a deeper perspective.
I love that. And the reason why I'm actually, hang on one second, I'm looking up my song and I just don't know who sings it. And that's what I want to bring it up, but I don't want it to, and Andrea Day, Rise Up. Right. That has been one of my power songs since I've heard it. She has an amazing voice. The video is so relevant, but the lyrics just move me.
That's such an amazing coincidence, because the last meeting that I've had today, we spoke about music for about 5 minutes at the beginning, and he told me his 2 favorite songs, and Rise Up by Andrea Day is on my list here on my notepad to go and look up. So there you go. Synchronicity. Yeah. Everybody look up that song.
It is. And she does an amazing song, and it is about the things that we do in life that are selfless.
Yeah.
And so that's just like, that's my heart space. It's all the things that I do that I don't expect anything back from them. I just give to help. I just serve. And that's what I get from that song. And Tim McGraw's Humble is another song that I love.
Well, I'm writing that down because I just think that we get these, we don't actually, the way that people listen to music these days, we don't actually always hear the music that's a match for us. Like we're listening to the radio, it's all the same stuff over and over. And we might have 2 or 3 CDs at home, or we might listen to Spotify and it's all random songs. So Tim McGraw.
Humble.
Humble. I'm going to
Be Humble. I think the song is actually called Be Humble and Kind.
Okay.
And so it's an amazing song, and it's a mindset song. It's just all about, no matter what's going on in life, be humble and kind.
Yeah.
And it's just an amazing song. So, let's talk about your intuition.
Oh my goodness. I just feel like, we all have access to something outside of us that kind of speaks to us. So the first really strong, life-changing piece of intuition I got was when I had been I was always working around confidence. Confidence was always a big thing. And I had been doing image consulting and diet stuff because I had worked at that years ago. All my times that I was avoiding doing singing, I was doing all these other interesting things. So for a year, I set up my own business to do nutrition and image consulting to help you feel confident. And I got to the end of that year and I was in a show in my local town, White Christmas. And I was Betty, one of the leads, and I just loved it. And I just said, dear God, I just want to do more with music next year. I just want music to be the main thing that I do. I don't care if I earn money other ways, but I want my time to be spent on music. And over that Christmas holiday, I had an inspiration. And I know it was an inspiration because it wasn't what I wanted to hear. It said, here I was hoping to do loads of singing and be, on a stage. It said, teach a workshop to adults. And I was like, I'm not really a teacher. That sounds hard. What do you mean? I mean, I have to find a venue. How could I do that? So because I had been meditating for a while, I understood that it was genuinely, and it was very close to what I wanted to do. It was related to music. So I had to pay attention, and I decided, right, there's no harm in just seeing, right? So I didn't shut it down immediately. I spoke to a friend of mine who played piano, and he offered me a venue. He got me my first 8 people in the room. And within 6 months, I had a business name, a Facebook page, a website, and I was teaching people one-on-one. So I think that intuition is when something comes into your mind that you cannot follow the train of how it got there. And I think when it's something that's in alignment with your higher purpose and with your soul, that we have to consider that it's worth listening to. So now I can tune in with other people that because when we're anxious about things or when we don't have faith in ourselves, it's hard to hear that sometimes. So sometimes in a class, by being very present with a person, I'll say something to them that I feel is an intuition. It's just like it pops in, and I'll be like, what about this or that or the other? And often those things that I say are really guidance for that other person and very useful. And there's never any harm in saying it. And I think that, trusting it is when you start saying those things out loud and when you start taking small actions towards those intuitions, because I do believe everybody receives little prompts here and there.
I absolutely agree with you. Everyone has intuition. We teach our children to quit being intuitive because those are imaginary friends. That's not real. This is all imaginary. This is how you have to do this, this, and this. This is a schooling. This is this. So we actually take their intuitiveness away from them by telling them that, that's not right. It's not real.
I think my biggest gripe with all of that is teenagers, because I feel like teenagers often have a lot of intuition and passions that they really want to take action on.
I don't know if it's that. I wrote a book about Leave My Bubbles Alone, and it's about bullying. And in my 40 years of law enforcement, 21 years was dealing with troubled youth.
Yeah.
And so the thing is I think, again, they want to be accepted.
Yeah.
And a lot of times even in the bigger cities, they want to be accepted so they could be mediocre in life, not take accountability, responsibility, and become a hero in their little group. And then that's where they get this false sense of safety, false sense of security. And then they start getting courage, but it's the negative kind of courage. It's the kind of courage that goes out and harms people or steals stuff or create problems. So as a teenager, it's tough enough going through puberty and not understanding life. And they're always thinking, well, you know, Mom, you don't know what you're talking about. Dad, you don't know what you're talking about. It's different nowadays. It's not any different. The only thing that's different nowadays is that what I could do as a teenager and not get caught, because we didn't have cell phones and we didn't have, there wasn't a camera on every corner or every half a block or in every business. We could get away with a lot more. Now they can't do that. And now they're held accountable when they do that, and they are recognized and they're no longer anonymous. But in working with kids, I tell parents, and have had to tell parents, I know you love your children. I know you're doing the best you can. But the minute that child walks out of your house and hooks up with their friends, they become somebody you don't know.
So interesting. But I also think that we each of us have things that we're interested in our early years that don't get encouraged enough. Do you know what I mean? Whether it's skateboarding or music or, and I know a lot of kids get sidetracked from that because of their friends. But I love to think that parents would encourage some of these, what are more like hobbies to them and not academic. Because I think a lot of kids, when they have something like that in their lives, whether it's sport or something like that can really take them through that period and in a more positive direction.
I absolutely agree. I knew of a kid that he was truant. He was truant a lot from school.
Wow.
And he, at 16, they were like, you know, dude, you got to either step up or go get your GED. This kid was number 8 in the world in video games. He was a gamer.
Ooh.
And he was number 8 in the world. And he says, I make more money at 16 than most adults make in their lifetime by being number 8 in the world. And I said, so what are you doing here? Why don't you get your GED, finish high school, get your GED, have that success there, and then do whatever you do. This way you have the foundation to stand on.
Yeah.
And so I'm not against GED, but I am completely for finishing your education, because those minimal successes in your life are so important to you as an adult. Yeah. If you don't have those successes in life, it's hard to become successful in your adulthood. So
it's about completing a few things. I mean, I think that
I agree.
We when we complete something, it gives us a sense of I'm capable. And sometimes the hard thing to complete is the academic thing, or the hard thing to complete is the end of the video game. For me, I wouldn't be able to complete the video game. But when you make yourself do something, and sometimes, I mean, my husband even said this to me. He's like, oh, should I do this? And should I do that? And I said, look, there are things that you know you want to do. If you want to do them, sometimes you have to make yourself do those things. And you have to
find out about it, research it, because there might come up something you're just like, oh, I didn't know that was part of it.
Yes. Go deeper instead of surface.
Yes. Yeah. I absolutely agree. Because the thing is like I said, I've had to defend boys on false rape charges because the girls wanted them to be their boyfriend and was trying to extort them. And whose kids do that?
It's absolutely
I mean,
crazy.
think about it. It is crazy. And as when you have children that come up and they don't have a support system and they're punting in life. And I always told them in high school, I said, listen, guys, don't listen to your friends on love, relationships, education, what to do, how to do, whatever, because they don't know either.
Yeah.
They probably watched some TV show or saw some, porn on YouTube or porn here or porn there. And they're going off what they've seen, not what they've experienced.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so,
it's so different, and different parts of the world are different. And my education was very different. I went to an all-girls school. It's just so important, I think, to have a few key people that you actually trust. And even if it's one teacher that likes you, that can be enough to help you stay on a good path. It's about human connections.
Mm-hmm.
And so I think you're on the right track with that. That's really awesome.
Well, the thing is it's like with everything, but let's talk about your divine mentoring.
Oh yeah, well, the intuition has brought me along with my singing students to a point where if they come into the room and I can sense that they're a little bit off, I just ask a few little questions and I realize they've had an argument with a friend, or they are feeling very overwhelmed with life or something. And that's where the divine mentoring comes in, where I just bring people back to themselves. I teach mantra meditation, which is Om and all those things. And at the beginning, we do little visualizations and how to relax your body. I do a lovely exercise where I get you to thank each part of your body. So think of your toes.
I do the same thing, but I get it down to a cellular level.
Oh, beautiful. Go as deep as you can. And I talk about the toes and I say, your first toys with your toes. Can you imagine your toes have been with you since you were born, and just having them in front of you was a great joy as a baby, and they push you forward, and and just acknowledging, because I think we're too outward focused a lot of the time, and we treat our bodies like it's a machine. And then after decades of treating it that way, when it starts to break down, we're like, oh my God, I'm getting health issues. Whereas if we could appreciate ourselves, wow, look at these, my hair is like, it's such a nice color, or whatever the thing is that you like about yourself, to appreciate that. And it really helps you to look after yourself and use, self-care as a form of self-love.
Yeah, I love that. It's actually, I tell people to thank their bones, their skin, their tendons or ligaments, their veins, the blood that runs through them.
Yes.
And then just go up and identify the whole body, the shin bones, the knee bones, the cartilage there, the tendons, and move on up. Because when you thank your body, what are you doing? You're sending yourself energy.
Yes.
And you're not out here, you're in here. So we do unknowingly do a lot of the same things in our intuitive practices. But one of the things that's scientifically proven, and this is so simple. If you stick your arm straight out like this.
Okay, let's try it.
Okay, take your right arm and put it over your left arm. Yeah, just your right arm over your left arm. Close your eyes, take a deep breath in. Count to 5. And exhale. Now take your left arm over your right. Take a deep breath in. Hold it. Count to 5 and exhale. Do you feel the tingling on the top of your head?
Maybe a little bit. Yeah. Interesting.
Because you're no longer left brain or right brain.
Yes.
You're brain.
I use this one. Actually, Donna Aideen does a fantastic 5-minute energy ritual, and she does it this way. She gets you to twist the whole thing in and cross the ankles and do your deep breathing. It's so important. Like we're very linear, and we're very one side at a time. And dancers, if you like dancing, dance around the room. Use the crisscross motions in our bodies. And a lot of what happens with older people, which isn't my area of expertise, but when we're older and we do diagonal motions, that's where we have falls, because we are always moving forward or back. We're not moving
or we're not stretching our muscles.
Yeah,
a lot of it has to do with stretching of the muscles. And so the fact is that but as you become a one brain, you don't have that duality within yourself, because the brain is the masculine side of your body. Your heart is the feminine side of your body. So if you were to take a deep breath in, close your eyes, and don't think, but feel 10 heartbeats. And exhale after you feel 10 heartbeats.
Beautiful.
You just harmonized your mind and your heart. So you're taking away and you're harmonizing. It's not balancing, because balancing is a leveraging set or a point. It is harmonizing this.
Well, I love that word. It's musical.
Well, it is. But the thing is it's how we think.
Yeah.
Because if you need to balance yourself in life or get grounded, getting grounded is a great word, because you do need to get grounded. Before the 1950s, people didn't have a lot of issues with getting disconnected from Mother Earth and becoming the greed. It was because tennis shoes came out in the 50s with rubber.
Rubber,
and it
yeah.
disconnected ourselves from Mother Earth, and we couldn't feel her energy. So we didn't think about it. And then we got into asphalts and concretes and roads, where roads were all dirt prior to that, or they were sand, but they were still dirt. And so over the years, we've disconnected and disassociated ourselves with our own heartbeat and connecting it to Mother Earth. So yeah, so that's why I said I would show you later. And then I do healings every Wednesday night on my Facebook page, so that it gives people the ability to come and get energized. And then we send out prayers to the planet, for the whole planet, not specifically just the whole planet, for every being on the planet. And so when you do that, then you're sharing your energy with the world. And that is so exhilarating, because all of a sudden now you're part of a collective that cares. And I love that we just went into the age of Aquarius. My sign, I'm in heaven. I'm like, woohoo! But talk about, and this, I wanted to do that to go to the next part, because now talk about teaching the joy.
Well, joy and play are very connected. So everybody has a different trigger for joy. And I think going back to that 5-year-old child is a great way to think about that. Being in nature is a big thing for me. I love being in nature. Music is a big thing. So I think we need to all ask ourselves, what used to bring me joy, if you've forgotten, because you do forget if you haven't had a lot of joy in your life. I did a Facebook Live earlier this week about tragedy and joy, because my aunt lost her house in Colorado in fires. Another friend, her house was flooded on Christmas Day. My mom is going through therapy right now for a serious thing. You know, when we have a lot of people around us that are suffering, it's very hard to give yourself permission to actually feel okay and to feel good. And dare I say it, feel happy that you're okay. And it's really important that we fill ourselves up with the joys of life and fill ourselves up with what makes us feel good, so that we can then support others. But we can't all jump into the water to save the drowning person. Someone has to stay on the boat to pull you in.
I love that. And what I use the airplane.
Yeah.
When you think of an airplane, the stewardess and stewards are telling you about the safety measures.
Yeah.
Put the seatbelt on, so if we have turbulence, nobody gets hurt.
Yeah.
Put your vest on if we crash in the water. This way you'll stay above water. But the most important part is if we're at 30,000 feet and we lose cabin compressor, you need to put your mask on first, because most people want to help. It's their natural instinct to help, but they don't want to put the mask on first. Now they become part of the problem.
Yeah. Yeah.
Instead of putting the mask on first, so this way you can help more people around you. And that's a form of self-care. That's a form of boundaries. That's a mindset, because if you become part of the problem, you're making it harder on everybody else. But if you think right, it's not selfish. It's not selfish. It's so you can help out more. Yeah.
So your joy has to become something that you prioritize. And it doesn't have to be for the full day. You can take 20 minutes to go for that walk. I like to have a nice cup of tea. Or in Ireland, if nobody else offers you a cup of tea, they always say, would you like a nice cup of tea? Because that's the one made with love. So make yourself your tea with love and sit down and look out the window. Set a timer for 5 minutes. Give yourself a full 5 minutes to just look out the window and not tell yourself that your responsibilities are more important than you. Because how can you meet your responsibilities if you do not have yourself filled up? One of my friends works in social work, and she works with kids like that. In the legal system, she always says an empty sack can't stand.
True.
So nice and simple. You have to fill yourself up if you want to be of support to others.
And I agree with that. I agree with that. One of the things I honor myself for is that I had 4 girls at different times who were homeless, and they were coming to school just to eat. So I went to the guidance counselors and I said, they only need 2 years of PE in the United States to get their credits for high school.
Yeah.
And I said, I want him in high school PE first period for 4 years. And they said, well, we can't do that. I said, yeah, you can. If you have all your electives done by your junior year, you can definitely give them a PE class as you know, you're done with your electives, so you can just give them other courses.
Yeah.
And I said, listen, I want these kids at school. I don't want them, you know, skipping school so that they're trying to get away from the problems that they're having at home. They're getting fed.
Yeah.
And so they agreed, and that's what they did. And these girls, I had them in PE. We gave them tennis shoes, socks, panties, bras, and a t-shirt that they could change out. And while they were changing out, I'm washing their clothes.
Wow.
So that when they got done with PE, because there were 90-minute classes, 4 blocks in a day, and their clothes were in their lockers, so nobody knew they were different or going through troubled times. Nobody knew.
Wow.
And then I went to like Goodwill or St. Vincent de Paul and bought clothes and kept them in my office. But you have to understand, I was dealing with the school we were was not a community school. It was all the overloads from the other own community schools into this school. Mm-hmm. So you had a lot of dynamics. You had a lot of Caribbeans, Jamaicans, Haitian, Dominican Republics, American Blacks. That was 80% of the school. Then you had Asian, and then you had other, and the other was 1%, which was white. Mm-hmm. So you had a lot of struggles that were going on there. And this way, these girls would rather sleep under a bridge so they weren't being used by their parents to get drugs. And so the fact is in my heart of hearts, if I could, when I got them graduated, 4 years, come get your education. Mm-hmm. Because as a kid, as that abandoned kid, that unwanted kid, that throwaway kid, I knew what it felt like. And so it was like, I knew for me growing up early in life that education was going to save me.
Beautiful.
And so this way, and all girls graduated, they all went into the military. I haven't spoken to them in a while. I still speak to a lot of the kids that I worked with. I was there for 15 years. It was the hardest job I had. My husband's telling me, you know, he's a police officer too. And he's on the streets. He goes, your job's harder than my job because kids are explosive.
Yeah.
And I'm having to shake down the bushes to look for machetes because that's where the kids would hide their weapons. They didn't want to have it on school grounds so that, you know, whatever bushes they had along the fence line. In fact, I had them remove all the bushes around the fence line so that they couldn't hide their weapons there. I've taken guns off of kids. I've taken Chinese stars off of kids. One of my biggest drug busts was a girl that was in high school. She was a senior, 4.5 GPA, was one of my biggest drug dealers at this school. Wow. And did such a low profile. So the fact is, did her parents know she was doing this? Probably not. But parents are so busy trying to make a living to take care of their kids that they've put the kids on autopilot. And as long as the kid's not getting into trouble, they don't have any issues.
Yeah.
And so the fact is so in this, like I said, I passed this girl every day for 3.5 years. And one day, a friend of a girl says, my girlfriend got her phone stolen and this girl stole it. And when I pulled the girl in and searched her, she had all these dime bags and nickel bags of cocaine in her book bag. And she says, I sold that girl coke. It was a nickel bag for her phone. I didn't steal anything. She was appalled that she was being accused.
Yeah.
And it was like, okay, you're selling drugs and you're appalled because you're being accused of being a thief?
She didn't fully get it, did she?
No. So anyway, needless to say, so when you see how things are and you deal with things are, but it's something is sticking out on your paperwork and I haven't touched on it and I'd like to touch on it before we leave. Mm-hmm. And tell me what Estelle voice training method is.
Well, you know, anything that you can do, we can break it down, you know, into the smallest part. And with the Estelle method, it's the physiology of the voice. Okay. A lot of it's a really interesting thing. So when I studied it, I started to understand that the vague ways that I was describing how to improve someone's singing actually had a more specific way to describe it. So
okay.
Yeah, so I think it was very useful. And I think that when we go deeper into things, we spoke about, going deeper, really go deeper. I could have been teaching singing my whole life without the Estill method, but with it, it is an unbelievable tool. So I really believe in lifelong learning. We all need to really, take our curiosity and keep following it and never stop, because that makes life interesting and we can keep building on our skills. So yeah, that's the Estill method, is basically the physiology. Like even posture is a huge part of that. We spoke about right and left brain and dancing and things like that. So one of the things that a lot of my students need help with is just standing up straight, and standing up with confidence and getting everything aligned and the chest a little bit more lifted and your heart more open then from that, So if you just think of your heart as being open, your posture can change, and getting in alignment with the jaw and the neck and the torso. The body is a very big part of this for singing. Breathing is
also a huge thing for standing tall and maintaining your balance.
Absolutely, because all these muscles, the diaphragm and all the abdominal muscles, work together. So when we take I like this one. So I say to people, so you're standing up and you take a breath, or smell the air the way you would if you were in a beautiful springtime meadow and a beautiful trees everywhere. So it's like this. And you'll feel the chest, if you really expand into it, you'll feel your chest lift, and then relax your belly as you breathe out, but keep the chest lifted, and you'll feel taller immediately. So, and that's a great alignment. So I don't talk about, sitting up straight or having good posture. Ideally, you're just aligning your posture, aligning your head over your heart, heart over your hips, and your hips over your feet. And so even rocking back and forth on your feet will help you to feel where that is. And I think if you're rushing around, if there's anyone listening who's a rush person, take a minute to just feel your feet on the ground and to rock from side to side and feel where your posture is sitting, and take that breath in like you're in a beautiful meadow, and feel your heart start to be aware of your heart again. And do those other exercises that you did with me earlier are just so wonderful as well. So just, it's okay. It's okay. Not everything's going to fall apart if you spend a minute taking a deep breath.
Well, it's also taking that pause.
Yeah.
Because when you give yourself that pause, not to think, not to do, not to act, all of a sudden you get information from you. You're like, oh, wow, I didn't realize I was a computer. I didn't know that I was programmed before I was born. I didn't realize this. And then all of a sudden, all this stuff comes up. And so, where meditation is, I'm the kind of person, I can't sit and go, I just can't do it. I've tried. But I'm a walking meditation. I can put music on and just get after it. I can walk 1.5 miles in no time, 15 minutes, so it's like, no big deal. But I'm just all about the frequencies. I'm all about the energy. I'm all about the uplifting, because when you're uplifted, that opens you up to see your biggest possibilities in your life.
Yeah. Beautiful.
Aideen, I thank you for being here today. Hang on 1 second, okay? It takes a special kind of individual to dream their dreams, their thoughts and ideas, and turn it into their realities. Nadine has done that. She stepped past her fears. She stayed the course and had the courage to follow through to the end. Nadine, you've championed yourself. Now we know who you've become. Thank you for sharing your ideas, your thoughts, and your dreams and your teachings with us today.